Okay, we'll call the meeting of the Planning Commission for
We're in April.
April 4th, 23. No updates to the agenda this afternoon. And, do we have a motion on the agenda?
So moved to accept.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to item B, the minutes of the regular meeting for March 7, 2023. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Do we have a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to public hearing items. The first item will be lots 8 through 10, Block 1, Radio Edition. Donald Crest to present.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Donald Kress of the Department of Planning and Development. Our first item here is called Radio Edition, a conditional use permit proposed on 3 lots of the current Radio Edition, which is down here in southwest Fargo. It's along Veterans Boulevard here and 52nd Avenue North. As you see, it is a 10-lot subdivision. In preparation for the next item, I'm just going to explain to you that this and the next item are related in a way because the lots that this CUP is going to be on are going to get replatted by the next item. However, this CUP, if your commission approves it, will carry through despite the replat. It's approximately the same area. So it seems like we're doing 2 things at once here, but they do actually go together.
Just a correction, Donald, it's south side?
Yes, it's southwest Fargo down here.
Oh, you said north.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's southwest Fargo, yes, sir. 52nd Avenue South and Veterans Boulevard, ma'am. Thank you. And here's, it's an undeveloped property. This was once the home of KFNW radio station. There were some big radio towers out here, so thus Radio Edition was originally platted, which was completed last year. And this is the approximate area of the CUP. The zoning there is general commercial. As you know, industrial uses are allowed in the general commercial zone with such a conditional use permit as being requested here. The applicant is Rice Companies. They're a construction company, and they are proposing to build an office building there, which will be their Fargo base, their Fargo headquarters. And even though it's an office building, it does have, since they're a construction company, some contractory, you might say, aspects of a few vehicles there and some outdoor storage. Again, since it's in the general commercial zone, all storage areas must be paved and fenced, so there's no gravel-based storage. But they have requested a CUP. As you're perhaps familiar with this area, this has been before you here several times in the last few years. There are CUPs for various industrial uses in the general commercial zone on several of the properties here, across the street, and up here in Rocking Horse. So it's not atypical that we would have such a use in this location. The applicant has provided just a concept site plan here showing the existing and proposed building and access and storage here. So again, you're not approving the site plan at this time. This will go through our site plan process, but just to give you an idea of how that's going to look. The recommended motion is stated in the staff report and shown on the screen. This, you may have noticed for some reason that in the motion stated in the staff report, the last 2 conditions are numbered out of order for some reason, even though they're in the right order in the first part of the staff report. Computers do what you tell them to, not what you want them to. But this is the correct order here, and these are fairly standard conditions you'll probably recognize. In addition, Commissioners, in the Land Development Code, Section R of the use standards of the Land Development Code also applies to any industrial uses in the general commercial zone. We don't ever list those because they're just automatically applied by ordinance and deal with buffering and screening, and then these additional conditions go along with that. And so your commission is the decision maker for the conditional use permit unless anyone appeals, appeals it. There is a 10-day appeal period for conditional use permits once they're approved by your commission. The applicant, Marius Rigg of Rice Companies, is with us this afternoon and may wish to address the commission. Staff has received no public comment on this item. And again, the recommended motion is before you. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Donald. Questions for Donald? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Donald, can they do off-site, off-premise advertising signs on this site then?
We did not specify that in this condition here. So I'm going to do one more thing here. This is section R. Yeah, so we did not specify that they could not, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is that,
I'd like to ask, just in looking at the visual here, what else is in that block? It looks like there's residential going around three sides, undeveloped or extraterrestrial property.
are you looking, ma'am, just clarify here. Are you looking at
Yes.
this here? So
Yeah.
this is all commercial around here. This is a city-owned reservoir down here.
Okay,
And then this is residential. This is about 350 feet away from here. So it does, there are some standards of Section R that apply in relation to buffering and these lots back on here. But yeah, this all around here, there's no residential here. And then this is going to be the future, as it is often known as Lake Fargo, the large-scale detention basin. So there will be no residential there. At one time, that was perhaps designated as residential, I think, but that is now designated for the future detention basin. If I may ask, that's correct, Mr. Knockless. Thank you. So,
yeah, I'd just like to ask, what are some of the other commercial enterprises in that block?
well, on this block, right now, there is nothing else actively there. There's the old KFNW radio station building, but that's out of business. There's variety. U-Haul is across the street here. There's a storage area. This is a landscape company. There's a couple sports training facilities in here. I believe there's a trucking company in there. So
So they don't have an overlay, though?
some of them do. We one time had a reference to where the individual CUPs are. They don't have, there's no overlay, no, but many of these lots do have individual CUPs for industrial uses of various kinds.
So then they need to maintain the same standards as we...
These conditions are pretty much the same as we've used for the past several years on those uses, ma'am. That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Donald?
Chair, may I, sorry. I wanted to pick up on Commissioner Rosenberg's comment, and I guess I would ask that that be added as a, if the commission is in support of restriction of off-premise signage, that we add that as part of the conditional use standards.
Okay, so adding that to the staff recommendation.
Donald, does it work better on number 2 then? Instead of 1 to do that? Because isn't it for the whole development then, instead of just the one lot?
Well, this CUP only applies to these properties.
Right, but are we doing a 1 for in the number 2, the agenda?
Oh,
item
I
for
see what
number
you're saying, sir.
2?
There
Aren't
is-
we doing it for the whole development
There
then?
is no conditional overlay on that property proposed, sir. It's just a plat.
Okay,
So we could just add an 8th condition here that would prohibit off-premise advertising,
okay.
if your commission would wish to do so.
Right.
And maybe just to elaborate, chances are our sign standards restrict quite a bit, especially the most recent version. However, there are a few gaps, and with the uses being proposed to the east in our growth areas, it may make sense to do some preventative action, if you will, if that is the desire of the commission.
Makes sense. Any other questions for Donald?
Just one, the Drainage and the water reservoir to the south, assuming no flood activity, is that always dry, or is there any risk of environmental impact from any leakage from equipment and so on?
Right, let's take a look at that, sir. So this is, on the subject property here, there's a ditch that is between here and the reservoir that is part of, it's a city-owned ditch, that's part of our water conveyance system. And then there's you almost see the line of it here, there is an easement area here in which there can be no development that's designed to protect that ditch. And in terms of cross-contamination, I don't know the science of that reservoir, sir. I don't know, Tom, is that? You know
It's not an actively wet area.
No, it's not a wet, no, it's not a wetland. No, I see what you're saying. No, it's not a wetland. It's not a basin.
Any other questions for Donald? Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I'll open up to the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the commission?
I have one question. Do we need to make a vote on adding an eighth item to the conditional use permit? Or is that about the signage?
So I would assume that if you want to go forward with that you recommend the motion and, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That would be the motion to be
Motion
made.
plus
you.
the eighth.
Correct.
I'll make the motion as presented by staff with the added item on not allowing on-site,
Off-premise.
off-premise signage.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, commissioners? Okay, let's take the roll.
Holtz,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Morgan,
aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Gunkelman,
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye.
I just wanted to clarify that was off-site, not on-site.
Off-site.
Off premise.
All right, motion passes. Next item is lots 1 through 10, block 1, radio edition. Again, Donald Chris.
Thank you, ma'am. So again, we're looking at basically the larger version of the same property. Those 3 lots we just looked at are down here. This is a replat of the entire property. This was platted into 10 lots. That plat was recorded last winter. Apparently, development did not progress on that, and so the property owner has proposed to replat it into 5 lots. Again, general commercial with there is no overlay, and none is proposed at the time. Here's just some more shots of that. I always like to take pictures on sunny days, but yesterday was rather dreary here. And then as you see, this is the old KFNW building, which is, I believe, not in use anymore. 52nd, or Veterans Boulevard here, and the intersection where the lights are in that lower photo is 52nd Avenue and Veterans. Again, the zoning, general commercial. This is the proposed plat, and I added a few lines to the plat here because it's a pretty busy-looking plat. This plat includes a vacation of the 53rd Avenue cul-de-sac that was part of the original radio edition plat. It has not been developed. There is a little street return and a stop sign here, interestingly, but that will be vacated as part of this plat. The vacation, as your commissioners probably recall, is a separate process that goes along with this, but that is determined at the city commission. And the applicant is required, among other things, to verify that there are no utilities, private utilities within that cul-de-sac, and the applicant actually has received numerous responses. I know, Commissioner, you asked about that one time before, so the applicant is getting those confirmations. They don't need to have that until we go to the city commission, but there was a standard process for that, so we believe that'll be completed in time. So there is a negative access easement all the way along Veterans Boulevard. That is, access will not be allowed directly to the lots from Veterans Boulevard or 52nd Avenue, but there are a couple of breaks here to allow this 40-foot wide access and utility easement, which is depicted on the plat, to provide access to the lots. We do have one lot here, lot 2, that does not directly touch the right-of-way. In the previous configuration of this, we had a couple of lots here that were on a differently configured easement that didn't touch the street. Due to the odd configuration of this property and the fact that there is limited access, we supported doing this. We don't do that often, but occasionally situations arise where we do it. And the applicant is required then to provide a documentation that states how that easement will be maintained and that all lots that touch it will participate in the ownership and maintenance of that. It is not a dedicated public street and the city does not maintain it. Just as a reference to our previous item, the area of the conditional use permit that your commission reviewed just moments ago, it will be this area. So it's slightly smaller than those actual 3 lots. We had the applicant apply this way because they couldn't really apply for this property because it's not there yet. And so by applying for their CUP, they can go forward with having their building plans reviewed. And then when this plat is recorded, then they can just go forward with their construction. So that's what that looks like in the future. The applicant, Tony Uckel of MBN Engineering, is with us this afternoon, may wish to address the commission. And the recommended motion is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Donald. Commissioners, any questions for Donald?
Maybe, yes.
Yes, sir.
So Donald, that private drive is the access for Rice Company's space then?
Yeah, let's go back here. So that will go all the way around and it'll fill in some of the space left by the vacation of 53rd. There will not be direct access from Veterans, Commissioner.
Okay,
The site plan is so configured to accommodate that.
so how are they gonna get access?
They'll come in here. This will be their lot.
From veterans?
Yeah, so there's two breaks in the negative access easement from Veterans to allow the
And those
access.
roads are private?
Yeah, this access easement is private. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So they're coming off of University, or off of Veterans Boulevard and moving in off a private road that'll be taken care of by the development?
That is correct, sir.
And what's the size of that road then?
It's a 40-foot wide.
What's the
easement.
standard?
It's a 40-foot easement. The roadway will probably be narrower. It'll be
What's the standard road?
a standard dedicated right-of-way in this area would be 80 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is,
Are we gonna have any issues? Have we had issues in the past about when we do like commercial at this level, having a big enough roadway?
no, if the 40 is what we'd usually ask for, and that when we do this before, that's what the previous one was too, I believe, sir. So,
Okay,
thank you.
that's all. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the north access will only be an in? That one right there?
I don't know that this is a one-way.
Okay, because you're far enough back from the intersection?
Yeah, that's an existing, there is actually an existing entrance there from the previous plat.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Tony Uckel. I'm with MBN Engineering. I'm the representative for the client here. The road itself is a 30-foot wide paved concrete road on a 40-foot access and utility easement. So that allows us the room to maneuver vehicles around the corners, semi-traffic as well. And then it also allows for us the decent spacing that we need for water, sewer, and storm sewer. The access in and out is both two-way traffic. We're not restricted on one or the other as being one way in or one way out. So at this point, they are two-way head-on traffic.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much. I'll open up the public comment. Anybody wish to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing. Any discussion, commissioners? I'll take a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have first, second. Any other discussion? Take the roll.
Gunkelman,
Aye.
Holtz,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Tossing.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, commissioners.
Now moving on to the other items. Let's see. Dwayne's Pizza Addition. Is that where we're at?
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brad Garcia with the Planning Department. And item D1 is an approval for a final PUD master plan. And that is of the block project, which is in the Dwayne's Pizza Edition. And as you can see, this is along University Drive South between 16th Avenue South and 17th Avenue South. And then here is the current zoning and makeup of the proposed or the subject property. This has been this is still actually going through the plat process for the Dwayne's Pizza Edition plat, so that's why everything is still showing as the original zoning and lot lines. And just to refresh as well, that this original PUD master plan was presented in front of the Planning Commission back in January. At that time, there was still needed detail for staff to be able to make a recommendation for the approval of the final PUD plan. So that was continued forward to a future date, which is now today. And before you now is the conditionally approved PUD master plan that was approved by the City Commission back in February City Commission. And then this is the current or the final PUD master plan that the developer has provided based on the changes of the requirements for the PUD. And then also as they've been working with staff to develop a final plan that meets those requirements. And then this slide here shows the two comparison side by side. And staff had reviewed the plan for consistency from the originally approved one, and staff has found no inconsistencies, and find that the applicant has met the requirements as previously described. So this slide is just staff's recommendation to go ahead and approve the planned unit development final plan for the Dwayne's Pizza Edition, which is again that block project. And just to reiterate, there was a preliminary review of the project to meet the requirements for the PUD requirements, as well as the land development code for typical site plan review. But with this motion today, it's just the approval that the final plan meets the requirements as previously shown at the City Commission. So, pending any questions, that concludes staff's briefing. The applicant, Jesse Craig, is with us this evening if you have any questions.
I have a question for you. It says here that the walking and cycling access must be fully integrated into the development, and that currently that there are no shared use paths located in proximity to the property. But at the time of redevelopment of University Drive South and 17th Avenue South are intended to have shared use paths. So I'm just wondering, what is the schedule for instance, the requiring of walking and cycling access integrated into the development, and then at the time of redevelopment of University? So can you give me a sense of how that unfolds?
There currently is an amenities plan which identifies those multi-use plans or paths. With the plan is shown here, the multi-use path along University Drive is a 10-foot wide path. The path to the south hasn't fully been flushed out yet, I believe. So, but it has been identified that would be a future, potentially a future requirement that would have to be met. And I think that's going to be I think engineering might have some plans for that being a bigger project in the future.
Okay, well, I was just wondering what is the responsibility of the developer and what part of it is the responsibility of engineering?
I do know that the path along University Avenue or University Drive is part of the plan as of now. That amenities plan would be able to address that, and it's still under review with engineering.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if, in the drawings it says here that, I guess I was just wondering if there is a responsibility by the developer or not.
Again, I think that's discussed in the amenities plan, which is under review with
Okay.
engineering.
All right, thank you.
And maybe I'll just add real quick, Brad, if you can use your cursor to point to the widen pathway on University that's being built as part of this project, and then the crosswalks and widen access points along each of the boundaries of the property. So the site plan construction that the developer will be doing will include those pathways along the boundary of their property.
Wonderful.
Go ahead, Art.
We had talked about last time, had some questions about, the drive-throughs and the parking. Was there a parking analysis done, or is there anything that was required for this parking study or anything? Was there any requirement on that?
From my understanding, and again, this Megan is the primary case planner, and I'm kind of filling in for her today as she's not with us. But the additional parking study wasn't required. The original one was sufficient to meet the requirements, and the PUD was based off of that original parking study. I do the information for the drive-throughs is that the north drive-through on the exterior of the building would be just a pickup window, and the interior two drive-throughs, the one going westbound, which is I guess they're both eastbound drive-throughs, but the one going going from the parking lot to 13 and a half would be a drive-through, a full drive-through with a order box, and then the one coming off of 13th and a half would be a pickup window as well, which was consistent.
So is that, is that written in stone then, or, how does this work? If somebody wanted to put a drive-through on one side that we said was a pickup window, can we have two drive-throughs then? Is
No,
that
it's
restricted?
written in the PUD.
It's written in the PUD that it has to be pickups here and here, and
Correct.
and a drive-through is only accessible on one side?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
It's just to allow the stacking requirements to be within the parking lot of the development, so that
Got it.
there wouldn't be an opportunity for stacking to happen in the
Yep,
public right away.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions for Brad? Thank you. Anything to add, Jesse? No? Any questions for Jesse? No? Do I open this up for, okay. Any discussion, commissioners? I will take a motion.
I'll move approval.
A second. First, motion is second. Any discussion? Okay, take the roll.
Morgan,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Gunkelman,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Foltz,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Tassett.
Aye, motion passes. Final item is D2, the review of the renewal plan with Jim Gilmore.
Thank you. This is a review of a renewal plan that the City Commission directed us to start preparing last fall. The first focus or first phase of this would be the redevelopment of the parking lots here between Renaissance Hall and Old Broadway. And so as part of the process of the renewal plan, we come to the Planning Commission to see if it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And generally that means is it consistent with the zoning. This is zoned downtown mixed use. And so it's certainly consistent with the zoning. A couple other things though, as we look at the GO 2030 comprehensive plan, where I think this is consistent with that. One of the owners or portions of this redevelopment will be the relocation of the Fargo Moorhead Community Theater to this site. They had been located in Island Park. Because of structural issues. They've moved out of there. That building's been demolished, and they're temporarily located in the Yumcom Center. So this is a way to keep one of our cultural facilities in the center of the city and in the downtown. Secondly, the Go 2030 Comprehensive Plan supports infill development. And so this first phase of redevelopment will fill this parking lot in. There'd be a parking garage on the east side, an apartment building kind of on the upper floors, and the community theater on the west side. What we also see in this renewal plan area is you see a lot of surface parking lots. There's a parking lot here where there was a fire a little over 20 years ago. That is now a surface parking lot, as well as some other surface parking lots. What often happens after you get a parking garage in an area, people are better able to redevelop those sites into a building because they now can get off-site parking where they don't have it. This site down here to a parking lot, we're in kind of the final stages of getting redevelopment going here. That site in the long term may need to rely on this particular parking garage for facility. Another way that this is consistent with the plan is really a dual use of the parking garage. So if you have over 100 apartments that generally use the parking in the evening, and the offices use the parking in the day, the community theater uses it in the evening, you get really a dual use of the same parking facilities. There's another building that would be developed again after this, sometimes referred to as the old Herbst building. There was a department store here probably back in the 1970s. This building is now vacant, about 50,000 square feet. And with the availability of parking there, they're more likely to see that building be redeveloped, possibly into an event center. They've looked at a hotel, they've looked at offices. You know, that'll all be determined based on the market after this is built. Just again, this is focused more on this, what I call the first phase. The renewal plan really anticipates a lot more development adjacent to this site. But you can see here, the parking garage would be on the east side, community theater here. And then if you look at the upper floors would be apartments that would utilize the parking, primarily during the evening. A lot of times people are gone during the day, and so often over half the people that have a car at the apartment building are gone during the day. We get that dual use. Again, it's just some of the upper floors. It's just the row. These are some images of what the building would look like. It would be an attractive building that would infill that. And again, having a community theater downtown is going to bring events throughout the evening. Helps bring more activity into the downtown. I guess just a few more images. It really kind of fits with the land use plan for the downtown. What you have is this is a designated and mixed use development. Actually, most of the site would be. So the recommended motion, for the planning commission is the recommend of the city commission that this renewal plan is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan as well as the plan for the downtown. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so why is the Bell property, the parking ramp, and the bank on the corner being included in this? Can you explain that?
Yeah, in the short term, Bell is allowing this development to use their parking ramp for probably about a 10 to 15 year period. We anticipate that Bell will then benefit because these people will have to go park over here, and then Bell will have more parking in their own ramp. They won't have to allow it to be open to the public forever, or this development forever. I think they have a 15-year lease.
So, okay, so Bell is anticipating with the redevelopment of that whole corner that whole ramp will get utilized by their own parking.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so why the bank property on the corner then?
It's easier to draw the lines around a block because property lines tend to move, and if the TIF district, freezes the property line, then it creates problems for our city assessor.
Okay.
If a property is partly in a TIF district and partly not, it just, administratively, it's better to try to follow block lines.
Perfect.
So, I have a question. So just to clarify, are we voting for this area to become a TIF district?
That would be a city commission decision. What you're voting on, whether or not you feel it's consistent with the comprehensive plan for the city. The Century Code requires the city commission to consult with you whether or not it fits with the overall city plans. And so it isn't, we're not asking you to analyze the financing on this. It simply, does it fit with the city plans? They're consistent with the city plans.
Okay. And then a follow-up question. This entire area, the phases, is it all being developed by the same company, or is there opportunities for other developers to?
It's not all being developed by, again, this first phase is a partnership between the city, Kilbourne Group, and the Fargo Morgan Community Theater. These 3 vacant lots are individually owned. We just expect that they will develop in the long term. 52 Broadway, it's owned by an investment group. They're watching this. They feel that it'll be easier to develop that, but that's a separate group. The city has a contract to sell this to a different developer, and then, of course, Bell Bank. So no, there's multiple developers throughout this area.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jim?
I'd like to ask, that property to the north of Bell Bank, it's currently owned by JLG, is that right?
It's actually currently owned by the city. We have a development agreement where they have, I think, until the end of June to acquire this site. They're proposing a development that would come to the Renaissance Zone Authority. They've had to change it somewhat because just the way the economy is right now and construction prices, it'd probably be maybe only 60% of the original site. But what they're looking at now is a 4-story office building with some surface parking. Is the first phase, and then a second phase would be another building on that site.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully, as architects, they'll build something beautiful.
There's an interesting piece of public art that they're proposing here. I know Nicole's been working with the Arts and Culture Commission to try to kind of put something a little bit nicer on that corner.
Any news from Nicole?
No, nothing specific yet. Jim wasn't supposed to talk about that yet.
Oh, okay. Diving too deep.
Any other questions for Jim? Commissioners, or is there any discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. Let's see, what do we have here? Can we put the motion up?
Yeah.
First page.
Oh, okay. To recommend to the city commission that the proposed renewal plan is consistent with the GO 2030 comprehensive plan of the city of Fargo.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion, commissioners? Go ahead and take the roll.
Gunkelman,
Aye.
Holtz,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye, motion passes. And that's it for today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And we're done.